which includes treatment like acupuncture and chiropractor.
This is a regulated profession, and in terms of law, we are also classified as primary contact physicians, meaning that patients can come directly to us where we can diagnose, treat illnesses and deficiencies.
And we will also look as to how traditional medicine works.
Complementary and Alternative Medicine, or CAM, is a term used for medical products and practices that are not part of conventional or mainstream or standard care. Now, conventional care is what medical doctors and allied health professionals such as nurses and physiotherapists practice. Alternative medicine is any practice used in place of conventional medicine, purported to be having healing effects of medicine. Complementary medicine, on the other hand, is any practice used together with conventional medical treatment in the belief that it complements the treatment. Now, examples of CAM practices include such practices as homeopathy, chiropractic, traditional Chinese medicine, and various forms of acupuncture. Now, other common practices in South Africa, as you will agree, include traditional healing and Christian faith healing. Nowadays, there's talk of integrative medicine or integrative health, which is a combination of the CAM practices and methods with conventional medicine. So today we discuss complementary and alternative medicine, or CAM, and traditional healing. Now, to see how this compares, complements, integrates with conventional medicine, we look at various treatment methods for common conditions such as your backache, arthritis, diabetes, and hypertension. Now, for any questions or views on this topic, please call us on 714-6843, 6847 or 6857, or simply interact with us on our Facebook page, SABC Health Talk, and on Twitter at SABC Health Talk, including our email address, which is healthtalk@sabc.co.za. I'm Dr. Sello Mutaung, and this is Health Talk.
Acupuncture is an age-old healing practice of traditional Chinese medicine in which thin needles are placed at specific points in the body. It is primarily used to relieve pain and to treat other conditions.
In Western medicine, we tend to speak of, let me treat an illness. For example, we'll say sinusitis. So we'll do a Western medical diagnosis. But in Chinese medicine, we're not treating an illness, we're treating a patient who presents with symptoms. Why do we say that? Because 3 people might present here with a medical diagnosis of sinusitis, but they will get 3 different treatments. So we're treating an individual. So we have to look at the individual. How do they respond? What is their lifestyle? What are their temperaments like? What is their weather response? Some people feel the cold much easier than others. Some people feel the heat. So we adjust the treatment for the patient. That's why it's called holistic medicine. So we're looking at the mental, emotional, and physical aspects of the patient, not just saying, I'm treating your sore knee.
Acupuncture rarely causes more than mild side effects. It is a potential alternative to pain medications. It is also considered a complementary medicine that can be used along with other treatments. Dr. Pillay has been helping many people over the years.
This is a regulated profession, and in terms of law, we are also classified as primary contact physicians, meaning that patients can come directly to us where we can diagnose, treat illnesses and deficiencies. A patient ought not to go to another doctor. Having said that, we have a limitation to what we can do as well. Remember, we are practicing a medical aspect. If, for example, there's a surgical need, then we refer off to a specialist in that field. If someone has an acute appendicitis, neither a general practitioner or homeopath or Chinese medicine practitioner can manage that, because that's not a medical management. That requires a surgical intervention. So there are certain things that we will refer also to general practitioners that require a different scope of management.
Acupuncture can be a helpful addition to conventional treatment for a number of conditions. Doctors like Dr. Pillay know much better as to how acupuncture and Chinese medicine work.
When you look at something like acupuncture, there's been a recent study with 570 patients for osteoarthritis showing acupuncture was superior to a placebo effect and comparable to medical treatment without the side effects. But there are enough studies to show it. And after all, this has been going on for thousands of years. If it didn't work, it would have exhausted itself.
Acupuncture can reduce the need for drugs and improve the quality of life of people with chronic pain. It is generally considered to be safe for children too, as long as you are using a licensed practitioner who follows recommended standards of practice.
I come here because it works. I think I've had about 5 or 6 acupuncture sessions in my life now. First of all, my favorite part of it is that I feel better when I leave. I don't generally feel better when I leave the GP. So I instantly feel relaxed and I feel a bit more balanced. But one of the things that I'm having treatment for is to try and work with scar tissue and with some damage that's developed over time to do with surgery. And the acupuncture, I can really feel that little energies, little things are happening. Things are happening that were not happening before. So it's a way of connecting the brain with the body.
If you are afraid of needles, you may be able to get much of the same effect from acupressure. Acupressure involves pressing or massaging the acupuncture points to stimulate energy pathways. It is important to receive treatment from someone who has met standards for education and training in acupuncture. States may vary in their licensing requirements. To people who are not sure of acupuncture treatment and other Chinese medication, here's some advice.
My advice is go and educate yourself. Go and read up and find out if it works. Okay, so you can't just assume it doesn't work because someone told you it didn't. After all, we've been doing this for thousands of years.
All right, very interesting. Now, backache is one very, very common condition. It is reported that 8 out of every 10 people will suffer from backache at some time in their lives. And it is so common that in most instances it becomes recurrent in about 7 out of every 10 sufferers. Now, this is a huge problem in that 2 out of every 10 people that suffer from headache will seek some form of healing or help from your either allopathic or complementary and alternative medicine practitioners. And in fact, it is said that the cost of treating backache in this country is over 2 billion rands annually. Now, it's fact that people that suffer from backache not only consult with medical doctors and surgeons, orthopedic surgeons and so on, but they do consult with complementary and alternative medicine or CAM practitioners. And we have 2 such special guests with us today. First up is Dr. Danny Pillay, who's a traditional medicine and acupuncture. And Dr. Pillay is also president of the Homeopathic Association of South Africa and is also the chairperson of the Professional Board of Homeopathy, Naturopathy and Phytotherapy, or HNP for short. Dr. Pillay, welcome to Health Talk. And of course, next to him we have Dr. Martin Kruger, who is a chiropractor with special interest in functional medicine. Welcome to Health Talk.
Thanks for having me.
Right.
Thanks. Good morning.
We have a very fascinating discussion today. Very often on this show we present the allopathic view or the conventional view of treating a lot of these conditions. And today we thought that let's just try and balance things a bit and kind of look at what else is out there. Now let's talk backache. Maybe starting with you, Dr. Pillay. We saw in that in clip, all right, that homeopathy or traditional medicine, I mean, it's something that is regulated in this country. Do you perhaps just very quickly take us through your scope of practice, what it is that you do, and how the registration issues in fact go?
All right. I practice as a homeopath in traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture.
Right.
So we have what is called the Allied Health Professions Council.
Yeah.
That was formed by an Act 63 of 1982. So in terms of that, any person that wants to practice homeopathy or traditional Chinese medicine, chiropractic, Ayurveda, naturopathy, Unani Tib, have to be registered with council.
Right.
In order to get a practice license.
Yeah.
In terms of the scope of practice, homeopaths in the traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture, there's a defined scope of practice. Yeah. We are classified as primary contact practitioners, meaning that the public can come directly to us, and part of our task is to diagnose illnesses and deficiencies.
Right.
And once making those diagnoses, to administer a type of treatment.
Okay, all right. We'll come back to that. Let's just get a view of Dr. Martin Kruger here. Now, chiropractors, not too many people are aware that there's even a profession like yours. Do you want to perhaps just take us through what it is that you do and how, of course, you're registered and regulated in the country?
Chiropractic is it's pretty new to this country. We've got about 700 practitioners. We are regulated by the Allied Health Professions Council.
Right.
It's a 5-year master's degree. We study for the first 3 years with the homeopaths actually, and then specialize and move into manual therapies or chiropractic. After that master's degree is completed, we then do a community service, and then you register and you're allowed to practice.
Right. Okay. Now that we're at least clear in terms of what it is that you do, let's talk backache now.
Sure.
You in your introduction, Dr. Pile, you said that you have primary contact with the patients. Maybe let's start with chiropractor, because I think that's one very common area where you treat a lot of people with backache. Do people come straight to you, as without having visited any other doctor? In other words, do you do diagnosis of these conditions?
Yeah, we definitely do diagnose, but some people come to us as a last resort and have tried everything else, and they come through and have a look at the chiropractor before contemplating surgery.
Right.
And other people see us as primary diagnoses or diagnosticians of back pain.
Okay.
So whenever it comes to back pain, I always say, guys, get specific, because you've got the back of the hand too. So you want to make sure that it's proper back pain.
Okay.
And that then requires diagnosis.
So supposing somebody comes to you then with, say, a 65-year-old man,
Yeah.
Acute backache after having tried to lift a heavy object,
Okay.
comes to you to say, listen, I have back pain, it radiating back, down the back of my leg or anything like that. How do you diagnose that?
Okay, so we'll go through a medical diagnosis. So the
Right.
person would go through a neurological examination, and then, if necessary, go through for x-rays or some type of investigation. So if there's any doubt in the practitioner's mind that there's something else that's going on that's possibly visceral or something serious, then there's always an escalation. So in the chiropractic profession, we were taught very well that if there's something that doesn't cover your scope of practice, refer out and escalate.
Okay. In terms of investigations now, you mentioned x-rays. So you do send people for x-rays.
Correct.
And other types of investigations.
Correct.
What
Absolutely.
Are you limited in terms of what you can send for?
We can't send for a CT scan or an MRI.
Right.
That's where we refer over to a neurologist or a neurosurgeon, orthopedic surgeon, etc.
Right.
But x-rays are widely used. It's a cheap investigation that really can give us good value for the amount of money you spend.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes blood tests as well.
Okay. Now, are there any, we know that there's different causes for backache.
Sure.
I'm tempted to ask you what your beliefs or what your training has taught you in terms of the different causes of backache.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit of that, but more on what types of backache do you actually deal with on a daily basis?
There's such a vast scope or vast continuum of where back pain comes from. Where you get something like an emotional backache, the guy's going through a divorce, and he just collapses and he's in back pain and he needs a good chat.
Right.
You have a talk with him, but then you get the guy, for example, who picks up a heavy weight, back pulls out.
Right.
The vast majority of people come in with something called mechanical back pain, which is a mechanism or mechanical fault within the vertebra. And in the articulations of the spine, and that then is investigated and treated.
Okay, all right. What methods do you use to treat?
The primary tool of a chiropractor is manipulation.
Right.
So chiropractic, by definition, chiropractic means done by hand.
Right.
So the chiropractor uses his hands to
No
help.
injections?
No injections.
No prescriptions for medication?
No
or anything
medicines. So we won't use any scheduled medicines.
Yeah.
The chiropractors and the School of Chiropractic does teach dry needling.
Okay.
So
talk about dry needling. That's the arena for Dr. Pile. Maybe Dr. Pile, let's just find out about your treatment methods for backache.
Well, it will start before first you would make a conventional diagnosis.
Right.
So obviously evaluating the patient, doing a physical exam to see where the site is. Could it be discogenic? Could it be ligamentous or muscular? If you use your example of a 65-year-old, could it be a case that he has prostatic problems, that you're transferring a prostate cancer that is now becoming a metastasis into the spine? So is that a cause? So we need that. So we'd use the technology of x-rays. We refer off to specialists, more to the point not that we can't refer for a procedure, but medical aids tend to only cover MRIs and CT scans if requested by a specialist. Then our treatment methodology would be using acupuncture, using herbal medicines, traditional Chinese herbal medicines, but we are specific in our diagnosis. So we look at patterns and syndromes. So we look at how the patient's experiencing this. Are they better for movement, worse for movement? If the person's better for rest, it's probably more a deficiency syndrome. So we'll treat, if there's an excess condition, there's heat. And so we look at it, and often back pain can not only be just emanating from the back, it could be kidney disorders. So we need to look at that and do the necessary evaluation and then formulate a treatment plan.
Okay, all right. This is becoming very interesting, but unfortunately we have to just go for a quick commercial break. When we return, we turn our focus on arthritis. Please stay with us.
There are places some are afraid to go. Discussions some are afraid to have.
Leave the house. We're not going to say anything further than this.
But some have the courage to open their eyes. To go to those places, have those discussions.
You're pulling at least 18 hours a day.
Because sometimes perceptions need to be altered.
It's been dubbed the trial of the century.
And when you get to a press conference,
they were hoping that that would stem the tide.
Stories need to be told in a language everyone can understand.
Once you have religious power, you can abuse people.
But they have got benefits. Free marijuana.
I can only hope that you media, you hear these things.
Everything you might have been afraid to ask, but need to know. SABC Current Affairs.
Traditional medicine is the sum total of knowledge, skills and practices based on theories, beliefs and experiences indigenous to different cultures. It is estimated about 80% of South Africans often use traditional medicine. This may be obtained on prescription from a traditional healer or purchased from a herb sellers. Babu Mvubo, who is the founder of Faraday Traditional Healing Market, had this to say. When you arrive to us for help and you're very sick, we first check your high blood pressure and sugar diabetes. We do have testers for both high blood pressure and sugar diabetes, because it is very dangerous to heal someone without knowing as to whether their sugar level is higher or not. We first detect the problem before solving it. But if we can't treat the problem, then we take the patient to the clinic and make sure that they get the necessary help. South African traditional medicine uses animal, mineral and plant products to induce physiological and psychological healing effects. In short, most of the nature can be used as medicine. It's like a traditional healer saying they can cure AIDS. AIDS is a complicated disease. We can't cure HIV/AIDS. We can only minimize the symptoms within that person, and that makes them better. But it doesn't mean it's cured. AIDS is still there. If not well taken care of, that person can relapse. When we prescribe medicine, we also advise our patients to eat fruits and vegetables, and also drink other liquids that can boost their immune system. There is no traditional healer that can cure AIDS. You might think people are cured, but the truth of the matter is, the disease is still there.
All right, now on to something else. Now, arthritis is inflammation of one or more joints in our body, commonly presenting as joint pain and stiffness. Now, this is another very common and disabling condition affecting millions of people worldwide. And there are various forms of arthritis, the commonest ones being, osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, and gout. And in seeking relief from this very debilitating condition, people often consult a variety of healthcare practitioners, including camp practitioners. Now, we welcome to the panel another special guest, Makosi Amanda Kabasha, who is a traditional healer and head of the traditional medicine unit at the South African Bureau Standards, SABS. welcome to Health Talk, Makos. Now, before we carry on, I believe we have a caller on the line, and this is Zanella. Zanella, welcome to Health Talk.
Thank you, doctor.
Your question or comment?
I've got a backache from 2002.
Right.
And almost everything has been done except operation. And they said I've got scoliosis in the back. So I just wanted to know if acupuncture could help me, because one doctor said I should try acupuncture.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that's a very interesting question. Thank you very much for the question. We have the expert here. Perhaps we can...
well, I have to give a generic answer in the sense that I haven't evaluated the Zanella specifically, but she says she's had various tests. So we'd look at treating, and from a Chinese medicine point of view and homeopathy, to look at the individual nature of the patient. From a Western allopathic point of view, we look at back pain and look at how we can minimize and stop the neurological symptoms or transmission of pain. In this, we have to see whether there's damp in the system or is there cold invasion, and we'll treat accordingly. When she says there's scoliosis, often if there's muscular spasms, it'll also affect the spine, unless she's been born and with a structural deformity of scoliosis. So part of this will be rehabilitation, getting the muscles to work better, getting it to strengthen, and also looking at core muscle strength as well to balance.
Perhaps for the sake of our viewers, I mean, scoliosis is a deformity in the normal curvature of the spine, that instead of it being straight, there's a small curve, which sometimes can result in some structural problems with the back, one of which is nerve impingement, and that gives rise to pain. Now, coming back to acupuncture, maybe let's just come there. I mean, the rationale behind acupuncture, what exactly does it do?
Well, from a traditional Chinese medicine point of view, we talk about acupuncture meridians. They are, if you want to use electrical pathways that run through the body. And the theory of it is that if there's blockage of the pathway, you'll have disease. So from a Chinese medicine point of view, if you've got pain, we talk of what we call blood stagnation. There's not enough movement of fluid. So the idea is to get that movement going. So Chinese medicine and acupuncture specifically, we're inserting needles in specific points to bring about that balance. So
it's got nothing to do with pain and pain pathways?
Well, to a point. There are different theories, but you've got the pain pathway, the gate theories, the single gate and what we call the dual gate theory. So part of what the research has shown that it does block the pain fibers and pathways. It also causes increase of prostaglandins. It causes increases on other endorphins, which help like natural pain or opioids. So there are studies that indicate that these substances are released by the body and substance P to inhibit pain.
Let's welcome Makosi again. Welcome to Health Talk. Makosi, we're talking about some of these common conditions that people suffer from. And oftentimes, people that suffer from, especially one of these chronic arthritis, like rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis, people get desperate and, they go to a Western or allopathic type doctor to get treatment, but want to try other stuff. And some of them, in fact, a lot of people we know in this country, consult traditional healers. Can you perhaps take us through, just insofar as arthritis is concerned, take us through what you do with people that come and consult you?
Thank you, Doctor. Firstly, we wouldn't in African medicine, traditional healing, have a term called arthritis.
That's interesting.
But what we would have is that we are able to identify various symptoms or whatever is showing up with the patient at that particular point in time.
Right.
So our healing, because we look at the holistic nature of a person, in that you don't just take someone as being, as the doctor said in his insert, a knee only or knee pain or stiffness in a particular joint. There's a whole lot that has happened before to lead up to that point that arthritis shows up, or any kind of illness. I make the analogy of a cobweb. You can walk by and you don't see that a spider's busy building, and then one day you walk past and you feel it, and you think it just arrived yesterday. It didn't. It's taken time to get there. So that's why a consultation with the healer would look at all of that, is that, yes, this person says, and in most cases you are correct, they are usually coming from a doctor. They'll tell us, Kuti, Bati, ngine arthritis. They say I've got arthritis.
Right.
But taking that under consideration, you then also look at everything else in the environment of that particular patient. So what we then would prescribe are all of the things that would try and minimize that. For instance, you find some people experience a lot of stiffness in the muscles. So we would advise a Situktoba, I can't think of the English word, where you'd use a medication in a hot poultice, and you would apply that, compress that onto the joints which are painful. We would also advocate a rubbing of particular ointments that we would mix, which we know are able to also provide relief. At the same time, we understand that a human being, there's a lot of what you would call in your conventional medicine psychological aspects involved. So you also want to get into that to ask, is the person eating properly? Are there things that are particularly maybe bothering them in their environment, which might be causing them to be producing whatever it is that then leads to this, that shows up as arthritis. Mm-hmm. So for us, we would look at that, okay, we see you've got that, but what is leading to that, and advise accordingly and prescribe accordingly as well.
Okay, so your treatment or the healing is not really directed at that joint pain, but as directed at the whole person.
Exactly, because that joint pain is not the sum total of that person. Yeah. It's just one part of you, because but it comes from somewhere. Yeah. It's never just in isolation.
Interesting. I want to come back to the treatment methods that you use, but firstly, let me just get from a chiropractic point of view, what you do for arthritis.
See, with arthritis just means inflammation in an articulation. So jointitis, inflammation. But if you look at rheumatoid arthritis, that's an inflammatory condition. So that's an immune dysfunction. It may manifest in the joints in the same way that you mentioned on your insert. Gout is often comes and the presentation is big toe is swollen and sore and tender. Yeah. But is it a disease in the big toe? Not really. You've got to look at the acidity in the blood and start looking at the detoxification pathways in the body. Yeah. So it's really important to find a classification and to define the type of arthritis.
Okay. Let's talk gout. What do you do as chiropractors for gout?
Refer out. It needs to be referred out. Yeah.
Osteoarthritis?
Osteoarthritis, it depends on the severity. So you've got your stages of degeneration. There is a certain tipping point where that also requires referral. Phase 3 and 4 discs, where there's a sequestration or herniation at a disc level, is definitely time for referral. The lady that had scoliosis, conservative care is effective for anything up to 20 degrees. Thereafter, again, referral. So
what do you mean 20 degrees?
Up to a 20-degree change in the curvature of the spine.
Okay, all right. Okay.
In that. So you do have a limitation, but when there's an acute inflammation, you can treat that and not have to always use medications and allopathic methods to treat.
Right. Because you mentioned you take some medicines that you apply and that sort of thing. And I don't want to get into the issue around regulation of medicines and, what have you. But I do need to ask you about dosages and that sort of thing.
Firstly, I don't mind talking about regulation because there's something called extemporaneous preparations in legislation, in that what I prepare for my patient now is not regulated. What I need to make sure as a practitioner is that I know what I've put in there, and also that I'm preparing it in a particular way. So we're not outside of regulation.
Well, maybe the issue is, how do you ensure that what you give your patient is safe?
Through knowledge. There's something that was said by the good doctor in the insert, Dr. Pillay, which says that if what we're doing was not effective, it would have itself by naturally died out. It hasn't died out. We still see patients who come from Western conventional medicine who say, help me, this is not working, and they get help. So the dosages is dependent on the training of the practitioner, that they know what it is that they are treating and how to treat it.
I want you to just hold that thought, because I really would like us to take that forward. But for now, we're going for a commercial break. When we come back, we continue our discussion on complementary and alternative medicine. Please stay with us.
Oh, it's a favorite minister here. Yane, Party is a very nice language because it was written by you, the people. Here's a good one. Try hard, and the individual who tries against all odds. Gooi! Give me water!
Help make Party South Africa's 12th official language. Sign the petition today.
This one is good, hey?
Welcome back. Now, headache is pain or discomfort in the head, scalp, or neck region. With many people, just simple rest, having something to eat or drink, or popping that headache tablet will often take the pain away. But for some people, headaches can become severe, persistent, forcing people into seeking some form of help from healthcare practitioners. Cancer, on the other hand, is one word that no one wants to hear when consulting a healthcare practitioner. Sadly, most cancers that are said to be malignant ultimately result in death if not diagnosed early enough. Now, what role can chemotherapies and traditional medicine play in the management of headaches and cancers? Well, let's find out from our expert guests. We still have Dr. Pillay, Makosi Kabashe, and Dr. Kruger. Now, let's get back to you, Makosi. Just now we're talking about arthritis. We're moving, it's medical conditions from my allopathic perspective. All right. Somebody comes to you to say, Makosi, I've had these headaches, for a very, very long time. Whether or not the person would have been from an allopathic doctor before or not. So just take us through what you do. Again, I would imagine you say you look at the total person. Now, all right, let's just go back to that issue about, the medicines, okay? Earlier on, we spoke about topical preparations, if you like, that people don't ingest. Now, where there's a bit of concern is the stuff that people ingest. Now, can we just spend a minute or so just talking about how we can make this practice safe?
Well, safe.
All right, maybe let me give a perspective to this. Okay, I have been in practice, and I have seen a lot of patients coming to me with what we call herbal intoxication, with kidney damage, people, peeing blood because of intake of herbal medicines that I presume were overdosed that damaged their kidneys. Now, and I've seen not one, but lots of such people. Now, how can we make the tradition safe in that perspective?
Well, firstly, the tradition, and you can't not move a little bit back to a historical context in that in the past it would have been very easy to maintain a particular level of training, and also even to ensure that there was some kind of accountability because of the traditional structures that were in place. Now, fast forward to 2015, a lot of those have moved out, number one. Secondly, a lot of people have come into the practice because they can see that it's a living, it's lucrative. You can make your living from it, from selling of the medicinal plants as well as saying that you know what you are doing. And because the traditional structures are no longer in place to ensure that the practitioner is able to treat what they say they can treat, because the lineage is traceable, because you know where they trained, and because the community, because it's a communal practice, a community-based practice, is able to attest to that particular practitioner. That's why we need the regulation of the government. Now, the fact that there are no...
Just hold on. So it is really about the standard of practice by different practitioners.
Exactly.
Okay, let's just hold it there because we have another caller on the line, Hazel from Claremont. Hello, Hazel.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm actually calling in because I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis and also diabetes.
Right.
But the reason why I'm calling in is that I've been on all types of gold steroids. You name it, I've been there, and they're all costly. And I have undergone various tests as well, and the acidity levels as well came out as very high. And what the doctors basically said to me, it's like the easiest way for them to describe it is like you have a war going on inside of your body where your good cells are attacking the bad the other good joints because they don't recognize them.
So what would you like us to help you with, ma'am?
Yes. Now, my question would be, because psychologically, your brain is telling you that there's one little problem. It could be a deficiency in vitamins or something like that.
Yeah.
And I just feel that the doctors are not looking at that part of the body to see what it is that you're actually lacking. If it is my pancreas that's not working anymore, is there a way for them to repair it instead of feeding people all these kinds of medicines? Because it's not just your herbal medicines that could have side effects.
Have you, Hazel? Yes. Have you consulted any of the chem practitioners or traditional healers for your problem?
You know what? I haven't gone to a homeopath as such, where they had to do some tests.
Yeah, in the interest of time, let's just get the view of the experts in studio, and perhaps you can just listen in. Okay, thank you very much for your question. Do you want to comment?
Thank you, Hazel. Rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune problem, meaning that the body's own defense system is attacking its own joint linings. But it's not just a disease of the joints. It is what we call a multi-system disease. It can affect the eye, it can affect the kidneys, the liver, it can affect the lungs, it can affect your joints, as we know, the peripheral nerves. So it can cause many problems. With a chronic disease like rheumatoid arthritis, the patient can also have anemia. So we talk of a normochromic normocytic anemia of chronic disease, but also because they're probably taking a lot of anti-inflammatories. And they use what in allopathic medicine you call DMARDs, disease-modifying anti-rheumatic drugs, which in themselves, while they help with the pain, cause a lot of side effects themselves.
Okay.
So a patient like that, this is where the complementary part comes in, where you can treat both allopathically and with homeopathy and Chinese medicine.
Okay, let's get a view from chiropractic.
Yeah, I think if it's an inflammatory disease and you're dealing with the autoimmune system, 70% of your immune system is in the gut.
Okay.
So,
Makosi, before I go to somebody else, do you want to add?
Yes,
perhaps?
alluding to what he's saying is that she said that her body is at war with itself. Clean the body out. Clean the body out and then start building it back again.
All right.
But
we'll
also
get back.
psychologically.
We have Mohammed on the line from Mpumalanga. Mohammed, welcome to Health Talk.
Thank you so much, sir. Very interesting topic and very timely, sir. For the past week, sir, I had a pain in my groin, which is now manifesting down my thigh and up to my shin, sir. What can the alternate medicine do for me, please, sir?
But what have you done? What have you done, Mohammed?
I went to a family practitioner. He's put me on a dosage of painkillers, which, when that effect wears off, it's back to square one.
But what did they say is wrong with you?
I initially had kidney stones, which I think has passed out of my system, and I don't know whether this is now an after effect of that which I had.
All right, let's get a view from the experts. Let me start perhaps with you.
It's difficult to do a telephonic interview with the patient. I would want a lot more data as to what's going on with the patient before I can even comment.
Fair enough, I'd imagine.
Well, if you see, he's saying he's getting pains, which you can get with kidney stones, pain from the loins to the groin. But we also should contemplate whether he's having a problem, perhaps with a hernia, inguinal hernia. So it needs an evaluation, whether it's a nerve entrapment or a muscular trigger point. But this kind of thing will need to be further evaluated. And for now, he's just being given painkillers to block the signal, but not necessarily restoring the problem.
No, exactly. Because I'm sure you'll agree, isn't it?
Totally. That it doesn't help to just try and and stop the body from communicating.
Yeah.
Pain is communication.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And in fact, I suppose from my perspective is to advise him to perhaps go back and say, listen, what you gave me, yes, I took, and this thing is still carrying on, and perhaps let's just find out exactly what the problem is. Okay. Now we were talking about safety and of stuff, and yes, we addressed the issue of the standard of care by different practitioners, and now when it comes to the actual products now.
Mm-hmm. In terms of regulations of all medicines, if you make claims, you're supposed to have certain data that supports it.
Right.
The problem legislatively in South Africa is that there isn't the regulations which tell you how to evaluate African traditional medicine. And that's not a problem with the practitioners, us as traditional healers. That is supposed to come from the medicines regulator in South Africa. They haven't done that yet. And so for as long as they don't do it, the loophole is there in order to be able to say that whatever you make, you can make it and sell it commercially, and there's no regulation at the moment on what it is. What has happened privately, which is by the practitioners themselves, is that they've embarked on developing a specification with the help of experts through the voluntary work of developing standards at the SABC, because there's an understanding that we need to be able to have some kind of specification against which you can evaluate.
Okay.
If there isn't a specification, what are you evaluating against? Even before you get to issues of efficacy, which is whether it works or not. Excuse me.
Okay, all right. I believe we have another caller on the line, Viggy. Viggy, welcome to Health Talk.
Hello, good morning. Hi,
Morning.
doctors.
Hello.
Good morning, doctors.
Good morning. Your question, please.
I have a problem.
Viggy, won't you do me a favor? Can you just please switch off your television set behind you? And as you do that, we'll go to a quick ad break, and we'll take your question afterwards. Please stay with us.
Zoom into Africa. This is Angola. The president is Mr. José Eduardo dos Santos. Angola got independent from Portugal on 11 November in 1975. The population is more than 20 million people. One of the major languages spoken is Portuguese. Monetary unit is the Kwanza.
Welcome back. Now, in this segment, we're going to look at some of the common non-communicable diseases such as diabetes and hypertension. But perhaps before we do that, let's take Viggy. Viggy.
Good morning.
Hello, Viggy. That's
Yes.
much clearer now. Yes, your question, please.
I've got osteoarthritis of both my knees.
Right.
I've got no cartilage. The bone is touching the bone.
Yeah. If I may ask, how old are you, Viggy?
I'm 69.
69. Okay. All right. Okay.
And so I'm just an ordinary medication, but I'm living with pain.
Mm-hmm. And you'd like to find out what sort of help you
should I
can get
do?
from the experts?
both the
All right.
doctors.
Okay, that's fine. They're here to help, yeah?
Well, osteoarthritis, she's 69. She's saying she's got erosion of what we call subchondral bone. So the cartilage is gone in the bone, so you've got bone-on-bone contact. So that is a mechanical problem. Even though it's mechanical, studies have shown with acupuncture you can get pain relief. The underlying word is relief, because this is a mechanical problem. So we can give relief, but more than likely if she doesn't have any other health complications, so she probably would have to look for the future to a surgical intervention and speak to a specialist who will deal with it. But acupuncture, in my experience, can give you relief.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm glad you said that, because that's why I was getting back to the rationale behind acupuncture, that it's actually just relief, not necessarily curing the source of the pain, as it were?
In this kind of condition.
Yeah.
So you've got a mechanical condition, but if you have other complaints, you're getting cure and relief depending. So let's say someone came with sinusitis. With acupuncture, you can cure sinusitis. But for something like this, because you've got a mechanical problem that not even Western allopathic medicine can cure, it can only give relief. Because this is now a surgical problem.
Okay. Dr. Kruger.
Yeah.
People with headaches, especially around, the neck region, what do you do for them?
One of the quickest studies, or a study that took place in Australia, they said, get your patient to turn their head, look left, get them to look right. If it's not even both sides and there's not a good range of motion, there's a 90% correlation that is a cervicogenic headache. So it's pain in the head that's emanating from the cervical spine. And the treatment, obviously, of a chiropractor would be to manipulate those joints, restore movement. If that isn't effective, then obviously massage, physiotherapeutic type of modalities.
All right. Now, of course, as in my introduction, I said we're talking non-communicable diseases. I mean, this is a burden that is facing the country, and it's getting worse. Not just the country, but the entire world.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you do for people with diabetes and hypertension?
In the chiropractic profession, there are studies that have shown the influence on blood pressure via a manipulation of the atlas vertebra, and that has been proven in clinical trials. But it's not seen as a mainstream treatment. People don't go to a chiropractor for high blood pressure. They typically go for musculoskeletal conditions. But I have had a lot of success in cases like that.
Yeah.
When it comes to something like diabetes, there is no chiropractic treatment.
Okay. Marcos, talk about diabetes. In that clip that we showed, we had the traditional healer from Faraday talking about managing, apart from HIV, diabetes, because there was talk of measuring the levels of blood sugar and hypertension. That was interesting to me because, and I suppose maybe I'm not the only one, I didn't think that traditional healers would have devices that measure blood sugar levels and blood pressure. Your comment?
That's courtesy of the Department of Health.
Oh.
In small ways, there was an understanding that a lot of people come to us as primary care healthcare. So there's been training that's being done in terms of teaching some healers how to measure high blood pressure or how to measure blood pressure and how to also measure and interpret the results of measuring blood glucose in patients. That, I think, was a response to a particular understanding that you have this high prevalence and people are consulting healers. But by the same token, in African traditional medicine, we don't have something called high blood pressure. We don't have something called diabetes. You will have someone who will come that you see that is excessively hot, even when it's cool. You will have someone who then breathes very erratic or heavily and who finds difficulty walking up. Those are all indicators of things that we would then look at. Whether you then, from your perspective, would conclude that's high blood pressure, that's one thing. We would then look at that to find out what is happening to the person physically, emotionally as well, because we understand that there are other things that could be happening around that person in their environment.
Just hold it right there, because I think we have a final caller for today, Mrs. Hlongwane on the line. Good morning, Mrs. Hlongwane.
Oh yeah, I had the same problem of my leg bones that were rubbing against each other last year.
Yes.
Now what healed me? I'm totally healed. I prayed to God and asked for divine healing. I just asked him for divine healing because the doctor had told me that this thing cannot be cured. And the medication that I was taking, I knew that it was going to make me, it had a lot of toxic side effects. So I stopped and I asked God to grant me divine healing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Hlongwane. Unfortunately, lady and gentlemen, that's all the time we've had for this very fascinating talk. I certainly learned quite a lot, but unfortunately, we don't have time. All right, maybe it's something that one of the days we will definitely have to have a follow-up program on, because we obviously just touched the tip of the iceberg. All right, it's on that note, folks, that we come to the end of our show today. So, again, share your views and comments on our Facebook page, SABC Health Talk, and like the page. And follow us again on Twitter, SABC Health Talk. And email us your views, by the way, at healthtalk@sabc.co.za. Otherwise, We're back again next week, same time on SABC News. And don't forget the repeat shows at 2 p.m. and 10 p.m. tonight. Or if you can't watch the repeat shows, you can get them on the YouTube link. So from the rest of the team and myself, Dr. Solomon Taung, it's a warm goodbye. Thank you for watching Health Talk, and please stay healthy.
Are you paying them well?
Yeah, I think they're being well paid. Yeah.
They're not going to strike anytime soon?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Are you an exploitative boss?
When somebody says that these actors were exploited, it's nonsense. The 16 actors, on average, they were getting 55,000 per month. Meaning that some of them were making more than 70,000 a month. Tula House sent Mrs. Matikizela Mandela. She was shocked how much the actors were making. In fact, her response was, they're making more money than MPs.
That's what they were saying, that you don't allow them to.
No, that's not true. Sophie Ndaba has got a very lucrative wedding business. She does commercials for Cell C. Do you think that she would have gotten those jobs without generations? I made her famous for her to get that Cell C job.
Watch Question Time with me, Mpho Tsedu, Monday to Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on the SABC News Channel.
South Africa was in flames as the country was made ungovernable. The world was putting more pressure on the ruling party, the National Party. There was a great need of political parties to keep law and order. This calls for the release of Mr. Nelson Mandela. Mandela has been in prison since August 5th, 1962. To those fighting against racism and oppression, Tata became a living legend despite being in prison. On the 2nd of February 1990, the National Party announced Mandela's release.
Government has noted that he has declared himself to be willing to make a constructive contribution to the peaceful political process in South Africa. I wish to put it plainly that the government has taken a firm decision to release Mr. Mandela unconditionally.
On the 10th of February 1990, the big announcement that the whole world was waiting for from the presidency, F.W. de Klerk.
I am now in a position to announce that Mr. Nelson Mandela will be released at the Victor Verster prison on Sunday, the 11th of February at about 3 p.m. Yesterday evening, I met with Mr. Mandela in Cape Town, together with Ministers Viljoen and Coetzee. During the meeting, Mr. Mandela was informed of the government's decision regarding his release. Discussions between me and Mr. Mandela, namely the state of emergency and the position of persons serving sentences for politically motivated crimes, as well as those who have committed such crimes and who are now outside the country. I stressed the importance of creating conditions which would enable me to lift the state of emergency without jeopardizing the maintenance of law and order.
Taking his first steps into a new South Africa. Mrs. Winnie Mandela next to him, waving to the crowds, hand in hand. They leave the Victor Verster prison. Officials, marshals of the National Reception Committee trying to get the people, and a salute from Mr. Nelson Mandela, his wife Winnie, greeting the people outside the fences of the Victor Verster prison. That is the man who the world has been waiting to see. His first public appearance in nearly 3 decades. And the crowd tells the story. Mr. Mandela finally leaving the Victor Verster prison, his home for the last 14 months.
After his release, Mandela and ANC leaders drove to Cape Town to address the South Africans for the first time after 27 years in prison. The crowd was in a celebratory mood as they waited for their leader.
I have fought against white domination. And I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve. But if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die.
Soweto was at a standstill as all roads led to the FNB Stadium. Most people, especially blacks, did not report for work and school, just to receive a word of wisdom from their leader.
Our primary task remains to unite our people across the length and breadth of our country. Our democratic organizations must be consolidated in all our sectors.